Next item on the agenda is 2020-0133, Parish President Remarks. Mr. Jewell.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, get situated here. Obviously, a long weekend for the residents of St. Charles Parish and parish employees. First, let me start off by saying that my prayers and my thoughts are with everyone who's been affected by the rain event and the flooding last week. I know for many people, this is not the first time you have flooded, and I hear and understand your frustrations. I visited with folks over the weekend, as did many of the council members, and I do appreciate everything that you all did to, do your part and help comfort the residents by bringing them food or drinks. I know they greatly appreciated all of that. Just want to go through that event a little bit. EOC and Public Works crews during that flood event were all hands on deck. As the event started, it started raining earlier in the afternoon around 2 o'clock. We were slated and forecasted by the National Weather Service to have a half an inch to an inch, and we ended up getting much more rain than that. I want to emphasize that all 55 pump stations were operational on Thursday evening. Each station has multiple pumps. At least most of them have multiple pumps for redundancy. However, due to the amount of rain, nearly every pump at the station, at all of our stations, were running during this event. As we know, most of those stats that are thrown out is that a pump can handle 1 inch of water for the first hour and a half inch every hour after that. I think our pump stations can actually do something more like 2.5 inches the first hour and 1 inch every hour after that. Is that correct, Miles? That's correct. So our pumps are at a higher standard than what you would see in the city of New Orleans, and they exceed that stat that you see in most other places. Again, this was an unprecedented event. Maybe not unprecedented. It's about 25 years to the week from the May 1995 flood that people remember so well. Again, forecasts were less than 1 inch of rain to a little bit over 1 inch. However, depending on where you live, you might have seen anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of rain within an hour or a 2-hour period. The east bank of our parish was hit the worst. Some of the pump stations were reading 1.5 to 2 inches of rain every 15 minutes. I want to let that sink in. Every 15 minutes, we were getting 2 inches of rain in some areas of the parish. This puts the event at a 500-year rain event in accordance with the National Weather Service. We are working on getting precise numbers from them and working on getting precise numbers from Planning and Zoning as well as EOC, but we can confirm that Planning and Zoning has visited more than 350 homes that were affected by the flooding. And after speaking with the governor on Friday, I declared emergency for St. Charles Parish for the widespread damage. And earlier, I talked with the DRC Emergency Services. As you all know, I activated our emergency debris removal contract to get the trash off of our residents, or not trash, debris off of our residents' lawns as quickly as possible, allowing them to move forward with their lives. We only ask that they only separate hazardous materials from their construction debris. Under a normal circumstance, like if we had a hurricane and that impacted southeast Louisiana, folks would be required under FEMA to separate their trash to FEMA guidelines. Under this event, since the state won't be declaring a state of emergency, when you really look at it, this was really a St. Charles Parish event. As far as the whole state goes, St. Charles Parish got the brunt of this. I spoke with Robbie Miller, Parish President Tangipahoa. He had about 16 homes flooded. So for comparison, and they did get a lot of rain. They got somewhere around 16 inches of rain, but obviously they're much more higher elevation and the drainage is situated differently. So we do ask that they separate any kind of household paint chemicals from their debris pile. But DRC should be on the road right now. They are they're going to be picking up debris starting today from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock and be doing from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Every week. There's going to be 5 trucks. They'll be all over the parish, making sure that everything gets picked up. If residents don't have their debris picked up by the end of the week, we ask that they contact the EOC, contact my office, or contact DRC, and we've posted the information for the debris removal. DRC is telling us that they can get it done in about a week, which I think is really good for this event. Of course, being a smaller scale event, there isn't as much debris. So we're glad to see that's going to be picked up so quickly. In light of the recent flooding, and in conjunction with my state of emergency declaration, I'm suspending all permitting fees related to the repair of structures damaged by stormwater for a period of 90 days. If you haven't reported your structure damaged, we ask that you do call the EOC and report it, that it was flooded. So any residents who are doing a renovation to get their home back into shape will not have to pay any fees from planning and zoning. And please know that flood protection continues to be my top priority. We're actively working to have a drainage study done for the entire parish. I think you guys will see that coming before you very, very soon. I know that we do, I know what we do in some subdivisions. We've done, we have a drainage study that was just recently done in months with my engineers. We have one that we should be receiving for the Norco area from Shred Kirkendall. We'll plug those into this study, but we do want to do a comprehensive global study, as we know that a lot of the water that we do drain in the parish comes from different areas. Our watersheds are interconnected just beyond our communities, our particular neighborhoods. This plan is also going to include discussions with railroad companies, and this is really the basis for a lot of these plans. We've had meetings with the railroad companies in the past. We show them what we want to do, and they are basically like, where's the data behind this? Where's the science behind it? And also, do you have a plan to get this done in a timely fashion that doesn't disrupt the railroad traffic? As we know, the railroads answer only to God, and they have been notoriously hard to work with. I'm hoping that by creating a comprehensive plan and bringing this to them, that they can see the effort that we put into it to get something done. We're happy to work with them, their railroad engineers, to make sure that everyone is safe once projects are completed. And I just want to take a moment to thank our EOC team and our public works crews. They worked throughout the night and early into the morning to ensure that all of our pumps remained operational, and worked the next day and even on Sunday as well, Saturday and Sunday, to make sure the watersheds, all the canals, ditches, catch basins were cleared, as we were expecting more rain on Friday. Again, I know this is a devastating event for many of our residents, and we're all focusing our time, effort, and resources to ensuring that we make meaningful improvements to our drainage systems throughout the parish. It will take time, it will take money, but we are going to get it done, and we look forward to working with the council to make that happen. Again, we met with CPRA on Thursday, the day of this rain event, and worked with them, or spoke with them on a couple of different issues that we discussed earlier in the levy update with Ms. Julia's committee. That was a very productive meeting. Now kind of shifting our focus to the coronavirus, the St. Charles Parish is entering phase 1 of reopening on Friday. The parish joined the state of Louisiana and entered phase 1. The following non-essential businesses have been deemed appropriate to open by the state with capacity restrictions and social distancing protocols, and those include restaurants, cafes, coffee shops, shopping malls, gyms and fitness centers, barbers, beauty salons, nail salons, movie theaters, racetracks not open to spectators, museums, zoos, aquariums that do not have tactile exhibits, bars, breweries, and breweries with an LDH food permit. I mentioned all of those because I just wanted to read them exactly from the executive order. Obviously, zoos and aquariums and racetracks don't really apply to St. Charles Parish. So wanted to continue on here. Various local groups and state organizations and licensing bodies have released guidance on reopening, and we have aggregated much of that information and pushed it through to our businesses. I really can't thank Corey Fauché enough for all the work he's doing to make sure our businesses stay informed. Again, I'm encouraging all of our residents to buy local, shop local, and buy American-made products whenever you can. Yeah, yes, that's definitely as well. You can also find more information on the governor's proclamation, which outlines Phase 1 for the state of Louisiana. We have that posted on our website as well as linked on Facebook. The courthouse has reopened to the public in connection with Phase 1. We opened the courthouse today as well, and we continue to encourage residents to do as much as they can to do business over the phone with our various offices, whether it's the clerk of court, the tax collection for the sheriff, or the assessor's office, registrar of voters. However, if you do come to the courthouse, you will have to go through a screening process. Face covers will be required for people who come to the courthouse, and I say face covering very specifically. You can use a mask just like this, or you can use a handkerchief or a homemade face covering as well. CDC does not dictate one or the other. The following will not be allowed to enter. If you have a fever of 100.4 or greater, and your temperature will be taken upon entry. Persons who have been diagnosed or have been in contact with anyone who's been diagnosed within the last 14 days. Persons who have been advised to self-quarantine by any doctor, hospital, or health agencies, or any person exhibiting respiratory symptoms such as a fever, cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, runny nose, stuffy nose, body aches, headaches, chills, and fatigue. I did vet my executive order with Access Health, with the infectious disease doctors there. So they read through the executive order and made sure it was good to go. We wanted to make sure that what we were doing, it was in line with what health professionals are recommending. Over to recreation. Due to COVID-19 and availability of space, we've had to make several changes to our summer recreation schedule. Swamp School will have a delayed start. Will begin on July 6th, and we will continue to have those week-long sessions, but just starting later. Summer camp programs, baseball, softball, t-ball have been canceled. Summer camps, as you know, we utilize the school's facilities. They are having their facilities cleaned and will be needing those facilities for summer school and for some of the learning that was missed in the spring session of school. We are going to be doing refunds for t-ball, baseball, and softball. So anybody who's already paid is going to get a refund for anything they've paid for. And the girls softball 9 through 17 will be refunded by St. Charles Parish Department of Recreation. And we want to offer something. It would be a short baseball period if we were able to provide baseball. We talked to some residents. We didn't think that there was going to be a huge engagement for people to do baseball, but we wanted to offer something. So we're going to be arranging some baseball clinics. We hope to work with some of our local universities like Nichols or Tulane or LSU and get some of those baseball players or coaches down to speak with the kids and talk to them. So they weren't able to play baseball this year, but we want to make sure their skills stay sharp. So we'll be doing baseball clinics for them. And we'll also be working, I know some of the travel ball teams are going to be doing some stuff, and we're going to work with them to schedule some time on the field so that they can do some practices and whatnot. Let's see. I want to talk about a food distribution that'll be coming up on May 21st. On the Thursday of this week, Catholic Charities and the Second Harvest Food Bank are going to be hosting a food distribution, an event that can serve a limited number of residents. They're expecting, I think, from what I read, was 600 cars to be able to put food in 600 cars. Man, we put out information about this. We are just assisting Catholic Charities and Second Harvest Food Bank, us and the Sheriff's Department, who will help with traffic. We have rearranged the way you will enter the Edward Dufresne Parkway and go through to eliminate any bottlenecking like we had for the mass distribution. So we've figured out a way where we will be able to queue many more cars. Folks will pull into the LPAC, the LaFawn Performing Arts Center, to get food. And this will ensure that traffic never crosses one another and it keeps the line moving. Again, I want to thank Catholic Charities for helping out the people in St. Charles Parish who truly need it during these times, not only with COVID-19, but with now the flooding in St. Charles Parish. So we've put out that information. We've shared the press release that Catholic Charities has put out, and we encourage people to read that before they get to the food distribution. You're going to be required to put something like a basket or a box in the back of your trunk. You won't be able to get out of your car. You will just pop your trunk open. They will place it in there, close your trunk, and you will drive off. So we encourage folks. We'll be sharing more of that information as we get closer to that event. Want to address water bills. I've spoken with a couple of council members about water bills. It looks like residents are seeing increased water bills this month. And I've spoken with Robbie Brew, our Director of Waterworks. There's some misinformation about water main leaks that the residents have to pay for because of vandalism or anything else. The Director of Waterworks is not aware of any water main leaks and hasn't been. I'm not sure where that information has come from. Residents are only billed for water that passes through their meter. Another thing I want to address about water meters, a lot of people say they go to their water meter, it's overgrown with weeds, no one's touched it. Thanks to the use of technology, the majority of people in St. Charles Parish actually don't have to have their water meter physically read. You'll see our water meter readers in trucks passing in front of people's houses. And basically, once our computer system that is equipped in those trucks gets close enough to that water meter, it just sends the reading to those trucks. It makes it a lot more efficient for our meter readers. And we actually hope to, in the future, move to a system that doesn't even require that. Your water meter would send a signal to a tower, and everything would be collected. We're going to look more into that information because it will give residents real-time information on their water bill, on their water usage, and be able to better show if that resident has a leak. So again, I'm being told from our Director of Waterworks that because of the stay-at-home order, there are and just because of dry conditions, minus Thursday and Friday, people have been using more water. We've seen more water usage, and that their bills would reflect that. Additionally, there was a 5-week billing cycle. Normally, you have a 4-week billing cycle. You do have an extra week on this billing cycle, so that could potentially add to your water usage. I know I've seen some residents who've said their bills have gone from 100 to 400. Look, if you think that you have a leak or your bill is incorrect, we do ask you to call the Waterworks department at 783-5110, and we can help residents with their bills if there's anything incorrect. Going back to COVID-19 real quick, just want to talk about the number of cases. As of today, we have 615 cases, 42 deaths. The Hahnville testing site is still open. It's up and running. We're seeing consistent numbers around 50 to 60 people going through there a day. It's slowly but surely dropping as more and more people get tested. The goal is to test at least 4% of your population. At least that's what the CDC and infectious disease doctors have said. We've tested much more than 4% of our population. Trying to get the exact number, it changes every day. But in addition to the Hahnville testing site, which is running Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to noon, we have implemented mobile testing. So we are bringing testing straight to the residents into their communities who may not have the ability to get to the Hahnville testing site. We did Kelowna on Friday, and that was from 9 a.m. to 11 at the Kelowna Community Center. Tomorrow we'll be doing Muntz from 9 to 11 at the Recreation Park in Muntz. On May 20th, we will be going into AMA at the AMA Grain Recreation Park from 9 to 11. All of these are from 9 to 11. May 21st, we'll be going into New Sarpy at the Allen Arterberry Building and serving folks there. And then on May 26th, we will be in St. Rose at the St. Rose Library on River Road. Again, all of those are from 9 to 11. We will continue to put out information. We are also doing targeted CTY, reverse 911 calls for those areas. So this evening, Muntz will have gotten a reverse 911 call, letting them know that COVID testing will be in their area this next day. So we'll be doing that for every single area. Just another way to bring testing into the community and make it more accessible for our residents. I know that was long, Chairman, but that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Do you have any idea how many homes offhand that were affected by the flood?
We have reports of 450, about 445, 450 reports of flooding. Now, that number probably includes unpermitted structures, detached garages, other types of structures, sheds and whatnot. All still very important to
Right.
our residents, but we are going by individual. Planning and zoning goes by and verifies these individual houses, and that information is good for us when we do things like FEMA home elevation.
Yep.
I actually had a conversation with Holly over the weekend. I've had several people in the public saying, look, we want, this home elevation now. And I wasn't too familiar with all of the criteria, so I did get some education on that, and we are going to make sure that if residents want to be on that list, we'll get them on that list. But we do want to preface that just because you get on the list doesn't mean you will be selected, and there's a very limited amount of resources to do it. We're just one of many communities, many other parishes that do it. But yeah, 450, look, at first it was looking like 100, 120. Right. Okay, this is not bad. That number just kept growing and growing. A lot of people, their first instinct is not to call EOC to let us know. No. Their first instinct is to take care of their home, and rightfully so. So, again, we encourage, and please encourage, if you're getting calls from your residents, make sure that they did call the EOC and reported it. EOC's been connecting folks with the not the National Guard, I'm sorry, the Red Cross. Red Cross has been going out to people's homes and just seeing whatever they need, handing out cleaning kits to make sure that they can do any kind of remediation in their home, which is hard to come by right now, these cleaning kits, so.
All right, thanks. Ms. Perrier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, regarding the flood event and the the emergency declaration that's allowed us to have the disaster debris contract in place, do we verify that this is a resident that had flood damage? Or I guess maybe let's clarify to the public, do they call in their damage and they automatically get the contractor to come pick it up? How does that work?
Yes, so we verify with DRC. So as soon as this event happened, we sent the debris monitor out the very next day with DRC to do an assessment. They went out and did an assessment of where the debris was, and we also, in conjunction with the GIS department, had a sit-down meeting this morning at EOC, showed them the data of all of the homes that were reported flooded. So they have that information. And, so if someone calls from an area that we know has not flooded,
Right.
We'll be able to catch that.
Okay, that's my question. I didn't know if somebody decided to take this opportunity, maybe got a house and say, hey, I flooded, but they didn't. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Benedetto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With Mr. Bingham here, I want to take an opportunity. I've been contacted by a lot of residents walking and things like that, and I'm sure the rest of us all have. But one of the questions we have in District 3 was the Destrehan 1 pump working the entire time? And I have a list of questions, and I'm going to email them to you so you can answer them instead of taking up more time here. But that was a major question. If that was actually working at the time, or if you had problems with it where it was down. Like, I'm getting questions like, what time were things turned on? How many employees were out there? Because rumors are that overtime was all kicked off, stopped, so there wasn't enough employees to go do things. So I have a huge list of things to ask, but I would like to ask specifically in District 3, were all the pumps working at the entire time? Was things pumped down like they were supposed to be?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that there was a lot of rain.
Right.
But there's the question.
Yeah, we did an after, again, I'll reiterate. First, let me just address the issue of overtime. We have scaled back overtime for unnecessary events. In the past, we've seen crews start projects on overtime when they did not necessarily have to start projects on overtime. In, I think, 2019 alone, there was $2 million of overtime in Public Works. So a very large number. When we did the assessment, we saw that not all of that overtime was justified. So we've tightened the restrictions on making sure we're justifying overtime, but we've been giving overtime when we need it, when we have projects. Crews know that in public works crews know that during times of rain events, that it's all hands on deck. We had almost 100% of the public works crews out and about. Again, all the pumps were operational the entire time. Can I tell you exactly what time they turn on? I don't have that information right now. I'm sure we can get that for you. Normally, our pump stations are designed to, they're designed with multiple pumps, so if one goes down, you still have another pump running. So in most of our rain events, only one pump, maybe two pumps are actually running. Not all of our pumps kick on at the same time. But during this rain event, all of those pumps were running. 100% of them across the parish. We did get some faults on the computer that we were able to override and continue to start, some soft start faults and things like that. But we never had any pumps go down. We had some issues with debris in the canals and in the Dunleith Canal. But other than that, the pumps were running the whole time. I've seen a lot of people say, this canal didn't go down as fast as it should have, or as fast as it normally does. This wasn't normal. This was 12 inches of rain in 90 minutes. We've said it before, I don't think it's an excuse, and it's not going to hinder me making improvements to our pump stations and our drainage systems. But when you have that amount of rain, a pump just can't keep up. But I'll let Mr. Bingham chime in on anything else he sees that I missed.
I just want to say first, thank you for letting us talk about this. Our crews were all out there. They activated through the EOC probably around 8 o'clock, maybe a little bit earlier, with the first round. And that was before the rain event really started. As soon as they saw that this was going to get to be something bigger, they started activating all the people. I got a call at my house, as did a lot of other people. We had people in the neighborhood. Bob Williams, my assistant director, went straight to Destrehan 2, which is close to his house. We had people at Destrehan 1. The only problem that we had in the pumping was what Mr. Jewell discussed, which was debris. But the crews that we had out are familiar with this process. That clogs up the screens that remove the debris, but they get those back in working shape. The pumps never stop, though. That debris is being removed. They remove it off of the screens,
Right.
and they cart that stuff away. And I was out there with Mr. Jewell on Destrehan 1, and these crews were working effectively and efficiently and very hard. So we also had people stationed at the ends of Ormond Boulevard trying to keep people from going through and putting wake in people's houses. To me, that was probably the thing that was the most discouraging, is that some people didn't have the respect of their neighbors to not drive their car through that stormwater, even though we tried to continuously tell them not to. I think our crews did a fantastic job, and as Matt stated earlier, they were out all night. We sent a few people home in the morning so that they could get a little bit of rest. Some crews stayed and went through about 2 o'clock. Other crews came back and continued until 8 o'clock that night, cleaning up debris and making sure that our watersheds were clear so that in case we had another event, they would be ready to go. We also had people out Saturday doing debris removal. And then we also had people out Sunday because we had a south wind that was pushing water up into Bayou des Allemands, and we needed to take care of some of that as well on Sunday. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I'm not finished yet, but go ahead.
I wanted to say that, and I'm happy to let you finish here, this might be a good interjection for a PSA just from the administration, and I'm sure you guys will echo this as well. It's very important that people who live along canals don't throw their debris in the canal. We see it all the time, and I'm going to look at what we can do to strengthen some of the penalties around this, and it's something we are going to take very seriously. There's no reason that anybody should be cutting trees or bushes or throwing grass clippings over their fence into the canal in their backyard. I know it's a very convenient way to dispose of that, but if you care about your home and your neighbor's home, you'll want to keep as much debris out of those canals and ditches as much as possible. Also, just a quick PSA, I did mention this in a video I did earlier on Friday. If people see the catch basin or their ditch in front of their house is clogged, or there's maybe something in a culvert, if they're able to, we ask that they try to help get that out. That helps our crews, just because there's just thousands of catch basins, miles of canals, and we do have a limited number of people. If they're not able to, we kind of employ if you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Report it to EOC. We encourage that. And we're very good about getting people out in a very timely manner to unclog that. But just wanted to interject that before I forgot. Sorry.
So, again, I think it's safe to say that we did have some pumps that did not work the full time because you had to stop them and start them and stop them and start them, correct? To pull off the debris and things like that. Because you
No.
were manually pulling off the debris, correct?
The debris is not associated with the pumps.
Okay,
That-
that's the
what
bar screens.
That's the bar screens.
Correct.
Now, we did
Correct, but you
have
have to stop things in order to get it off?
we have
No?
to stop the bar
Okay.
screen to get it off.
Okay.
But the pumps don't stop pumping.
Okay,
It may affect the efficiency of the pump.
Correct.
But the pumps were always continuously operating.
so, okay.
In fact, I think Destrehan 2 is probably the best example of that. At that location, we have 348s and 272s. You usually operate either the 272s or the 348s. That additional capacity was necessary during this storm. We had things that happened that with people who have been doing this for 10, 15 years that said they've never seen happen. That pump station, the 72s and 48s were working all the time for a very long time. No cycling, nothing. And that doesn't happen very often.
So it leads me into, 2 years ago, we had a major flood or a lot of rainfall, massive rainfall in the same area that people were hit again off of Armand Boulevard, Ducaille, Armand, things like that. After that, we implemented as a council, Public Works had some projects that were on the books. Are those projects still being worked on, or did they get put on hold? That helped Armand Oaks, Ducaille, and Armand Boulevard.
Yeah, I actually looked at some of those projects today. I think there's some widening of ditches. There's a softening of a curve going into Dunleith. There are some things that I think we can do in-house, and we can start them right away. Other things are still in design.
So I'm asking, did they get stopped once the new administration came
No.
in?
No.
So they
No.
proceeded?
So part of these projects are still in design. They're still being engineered. So, no, I mean,
Just the questions that
Yeah.
are coming at me. What happened to all the stuff we had in place that we were getting
Yeah.
ready, that we have done, that we may have budgeted for?
right. I can't speak to what happened from 2018, December 2018 to January 13th, 2020. I have not put a hold on any of those projects. And you think you'll see once we get the engineering back. In fact, I believe the one project that we are speaking of right now was also submitted for the watershed initiative. So we're hoping to get some funding for that as well. I think that project, if I'm not mistaken, was $8 million total, somewhere around there. I can get you that project breakdown exactly. Yeah.
And I'd like to also thank all the Public Works people that came out and everything, along with the fire departments that helped. I mean, we talked and you were pulling somebody out of a car yourself while in the middle of our conversations.
And the police department, they
Yeah,
were
the
a big
police
help as
department,
well.
some of the citizens. So, I mean, they've really stepped up. I have a friend of mine, I'd like to publicly thank Sharif O'Shea, who's been feeding people off of donations from the community. It's amazing how they step up.
I would like to add something about on that, the projects you were talking about. When I came into my position, one of the first things I looked at was the Ormond drainage plan. And we have been pushing that forward steadily throughout my time as Public Works Director. We have got ideas on how to improve the Destrehan 2 pump station so that it will actually maximize its pumping capacity. We're looking, as Matt said, into improving some canals, and those things are already well into design and should be able to go fairly soon.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the Public Works Department in reference with all of the work that they did over the weekend. The Hornville area and the Destrehan area, but Hornville mainly received some water damage. And it was the same water damage that was done in 2018, the same homes and so forth. So is there any work coming up, anything that is being planned for the area?
Yeah, so, Councilwoman Gordon, as you know, Hornville is under gravity drainage only. There's no pumping station there. It's purely gravity. We spoke this morning about some work we need to do with the railroads. As you know, those railroads really, the water just stacks up on them. You're taking all this water from these streets and from these ditches and collecting it against a wall and forcing it under what we call jack and bores. We're going to be working with Union Pacific. Mr. Bingham has worked with Union Pacific before on other projects, so we'll be working with them on increasing the size of jack and bores. In the short term and in the long term, we hope that this comprehensive drainage study will potentially find some things that we can do. I know there's a big issue with servitudes or historical servitudes and what we need to, those servitudes that need to be maintained to make sure we can get water back. But it's not only a question of getting it away from people's homes and to the past the tracks, it's making sure that it doesn't backflood South Fashion. And we need to make sure we get it into that basin as quickly as possible. So yes, it's going to be a focus. We did see other areas in the parish, like the Willowdale area and the Mimosa Park area, performed very, very well. Their drainage performed very, very well, but they did not get as much rain as Hornville. We got 10 inches of rain in Hornville.
And one other question, did I miss the date for Hornville for the COVID testing? Is there any?
I'll have to double check. I know we did plan to do one in the EOC parking lot. Let me double check, because I did know that Hornville was on the list. I just didn't see it on my paper here.
Okay.
Ms. Fonseca?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also got a lot of questions from residents this weekend as I was going around checking on the different areas that were hardest to hit. And I did put in a work order this morning with one question from a citizen, and also would like to thank y'all if y'all can focus on the questions for the residents and get back with them quicker rather than the normal work orders. I had a question for Mr. Albert, and he responded really quickly today regarding permitting, and really appreciate that. Of course, the PSA for everybody to get flood insurance. A lot of people that I spoke with thought that when they built by the Mississippi River levee, that they were high and dry and going to be safe. And in South Louisiana, I don't think you're safe anywhere. So thankfully, everyone I spoke with the exception of one person, did have flood insurance. But if you don't, just get it. I also got a lot of questions about the status of drainage projects that were talked about by previous administrations and possibly in the works. And I couldn't answer those questions because we haven't been, with COVID-19 and everything that's been going on, we haven't been yet briefed on exactly what's in the works. So I'd like to ask if we could do a committee meeting in the near future and get up to speed on those things so that we can answer those questions. I think that, I'll reiterate what you said. I think this event highlights definitely the problem areas we need to work on. In particular, the railroad issue is a big one. So, we're willing to help you, with whatever you need. I know they're not easy to work with because, we've tried to work with them in the past on some things, and you do have to have a plan and evidence of an issue. And so I think, a master drainage plan will go a long way to getting them to cooperate. I also would like to clarify the statement on the FEMA debris management guide. It is not just hurricanes that debris management guide goes into effect. It is any major disaster declaration that the president does. If you all recall, Baton Rouge had a major flooding event back in 2016. That was a major disaster event, and they had to use the FEMA guidelines. And in this event, the number of homes grew. Tammany had some flooding, and also, as you said, Tangipahoa. And early on, we don't know what the amount of houses are going to be or even the damage. And now, it grew from, I think the paper first reported a couple hundred, like you said, couple hundred, and now we're at 450. So it can very easily morph into what triggers the state's threshold. And then the request goes to the president to get a major disaster declaration. So, and I feel it's always better to err on the side of caution rather than to have people who are already distressed have to go out after the fact and separate their debris for pickup. But now that we know that it's not going to be a major disaster declaration, I don't think residents have to worry about that, as Parish President Jewell said, with the exception of the household hazardous materials. And lastly, I'd also just like to echo the thanks to all of the essential workers of all agencies for their efforts during this flood event, and my fellow members of the council and Parish President.
Councilwoman Fonseca, just if I may, we're happy to do that meeting on any drainage projects. I know we spoke about a few this morning, so we're happy to do that at any point in time. You're absolutely correct in regards to debris. We're lucky that this isn't a FEMA event, that not more people were flooded. But we're happy to work with you and the rest of the council on any drainage projects in your specific districts, and to give you guys a comprehensive overview of the ongoing projects in the parish.
Well, FEMA gets involved right now, and more homes are declared flooded. The expediency that we have going on with the debris will not matter. So I think, and heaven forbid we have another one of these events, we get DRC out there quick. And there's nothing FEMA can do about it. We'll pick it up, move it.
Yeah,
You don't have to separate it.
we called DRC the very next morning.
Yeah, that's the ticket right there.
Yeah, look, in times like this, it's never happened to me, and
Right.
and I couldn't imagine having my home flooded and having to go rip out sheetrock 4 feet up. I've walked through several people's homes and had a couple of people cry, and that teared me up as well, because this is the largest investment 99% of folks will ever make, is their home. And when that gets destroyed, I can only imagine the feeling of helplessness that goes through people. So, my intention is just to get it up as quick as possible and let people move on with their lives.
No question. I mean, I couldn't imagine having the disaster and then go out and have to pick through it and separate it. Just get it picked up, which was what we're doing. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We talked earlier about the projects and the number of projects, and you and I had a conversation this morning. When you get that list together, we'll go ahead, we can put a construction management committee, projects committee meeting together. We'll all sit down, take a look at it, and go through it, so we know what's going forward. I know there's a sense of urgency, and we appreciate that. Mr. Bingham, please convey it to the Public Works guys. They did a great job. I mean, I know we had residents in Norco, but, they did make an effort during the week before. They got a lot of that stuff done. They did save a few houses with some things they found in the drains. Again, about the debris, I agree with that, we need to do that. But I think the bigger picture is we get the master drainage plan together. It looks, now we have an event in the first part of this term that we can really hang our hats on and really push forward to it. We've seen the results. The 500-year storm So there's a lot of facts, there's a lot of information we got. Again, please, there are still people calling me that have not reported to the EOC. They need to, so that we can look at this, we can do it. Like I said, when you get it all together, we'll be more than happy to convey a meeting. We'll do that, and we can run through it, we can all review it, we know what's going on, and it'll be one voice, one part, telling everybody in the parish exactly what we're going to do for them. So, again, I appreciate it, Mr. Bingham.
And Councilman Fisher, let me just say, I have, these drainage projects vary in degree and cost. So I think there's some wins we can get in the short term. And some of these other projects that are your more costly projects. I spoke with Pat Forbes today, who is part of the watershed initiative for the state. Spoke with the governor, and when I had the governor on the phone, I said, I need you. I need you at the table. I need you with me when I speak to the railroads. I need you with me when we come and ask for funding. And he's committed to me that to work with the parish on that. He understands the importance of this issue. So we're going to be moving expeditiously on these projects and on this. We even asked him, he's going to go out and look for some planning money that can help pay for these drainage studies. So that's going to be good as well. But we want to make sure before this next round of funding comes out for the Watershed Initiative, that we have some more of these projects to put in the pipeline and get funding for. Also spoke with Congressman Graves, Congressman Scalise. They're both on board as well for helping with whatever we need.
Ms. Benedetto?
My last time, I know. I just want to say that I hope that Hanville and Destrehan, the areas that were most affected the hardest, are being put at the forefront. And you just said you were going to expedite things, and I'm hoping to see something almost immediately for these people. And I would like to be included in any meetings with the engineers, with anything that you do. I want to be kept abreast, and I would thank Mr. Gibbs and Ms. Lysandra as well. Anything on the East Bank, I'd like to come to me. If it's the West Bank, go ahead and send it to Ms. Holly. And on a second note, if any of those work requests that you do on the East Bank, I'd like you to include me on that as well. Thank you. So that we can all work together and we're not repeating things. If we can work together on this, we'll get it done a lot quicker instead of me trying to do something alone without the other people. We all have to be knowledgeable. But I want to be in on this. I want you guys to inform us till our ears are bleeding of information.
Yes, ma'am. We'll get you the information on that Ormond project that we spoke about this morning. Like I said, some of that stuff can be done in-house, and there's some of that stuff we can start immediately. We'll be working on moving funds, so there may be some requests that come to the council to move funds for some of these projects.
Ms. Fonseca? Oops, Ms. Fonseca.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This
Yep.
is also my last. Just in response to getting the debris picked up quickly, the reason that we typically don't do that if we feel like it potentially could be a major disaster is because we won't get reimbursed by FEMA. FEMA has very strict guidelines, and you're talking several $100,000 that the parish would be on the hook for if we did not follow those guidelines. And, certification of trucks and things like that, all that has to be done before you start them rolling. And I'd like to just reiterate what Ms. Benedetto said about I'm both sides of the river, and as she is as well, that's the at-large position, so anyone on either side of the river can contact me. We each get copied on the work orders that we submit to one another. The districts, Ms. Benedetto and I get copied on all of them because we are parish-wide, just so everyone knows. So that does help keep us in the loop. And that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Parish President.